Thanks. Calling the meeting to order. I apologize for us being a few minutes late. Good evening. It's so great to see everyone. And I will just get right to it. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, public notice of this meeting has been given by the board secretary in the following manner: posting written notice on the official bulletin board at the Voorhees Township Public Schools Administrative Building on July 6, 2022, sending written notice to the Courier Post on July 6, 2022, filing written notice with the clerk of Voorhees Township on July 6, 2022, and posting on the Voorhees Township website on July 6, 2022. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board Secretary, will you call the roll?
Mr. Bryce?
Here.
Mrs. Cosenza?
Here.
Ms. Cadover?
Here.
Dr. Levy?
Here.
Mr. Rosner? Mrs. Rutter?
Here.
Mrs. Stupler? Ms. Spurdy? Mrs. Watson?
Here. Okay. We are going to start with some recognition awards. And we want to first start with Miss Galliano. Dana was a fantastic fellow board member for 6 years. We want to share our appreciation and recognition for your 6 years of loyal service to the Voorhees Township Board of Education. And we have a lovely plaque. And I thank you so much for all that you have done for us. You want me to- Yeah, I guess I don't have to go all the way. Getting my steps. Not a lot of cry. Next up is John Schmuse. There's not enough words. So in appreciation and recognition for your 36 years of loyal service to the Voorhees Township Board of Education.
How are you guys?
We do have a third. Okay. We do have a third for Dr. Falk. We want to thank him and recognize him for his service, but unfortunately he was not able to join us today. So it'll be like the Emmys. I'll accept this award on his behalf. Thank you, Dr. Falk. Okay, before I get into the agenda, Black History Month is a huge deal in my family in particular. And so it's with a heavy heart that I prepared a couple of words about an individual in particular. As many people in this community are well aware, Principal Stallings has announced her retirement at the end of March. She had been preparing for this moment for over a year, and yet this seemed to have approached far too quickly. My first encounter with Principal Stallings was the dreaded phone call. You know, you've all gotten them. The signal hill pops up on your phone and you panic. Sometimes you hope it's just the bus being late, but this was not that time. And on the second day of school, because my 6-year-old son said something very terrible in school, I was mortified. I was disappointed. I was ashamed. I went through all of the emotions. I barely got through the entire conversation without completely breaking down, but Principal Stallings handled me with grace and compassion. While impressing upon me the gravity of the situation and enforcing school policy, she gave me the resources and tools to remedy the situation and teach my child the importance of accountability and responsibility. She instilled a high level of confidence in me that has never wavered. Now, I understand that my experience may differ from your personal experiences. I appreciate that for every parent that has felt heard and supported, that there are those who may be frustrated and angry with certain decisions she may have made. Show me a leader that every single individual parent supports, and I will be shocked. And that's okay, because true leadership is saying no. It is not succumbing to pressure, no matter how mighty or how loud, but doing what is right for the students, for the class, for the school, for the community. It is not about my child or your child. It is about our children. Principal Stallings never lost sight of that tenet. She devoted 45 years to this district, and I am proud to have been a part of her career. I am honored to have experienced her leadership, and I am grateful that my children were able to witness Black magic. Seeing a leader in their school that looks like them is something special and gave them hope and inspiration. I hope this community spends the next month celebrating her contributions to the Voorhees community. Let me start the celebration by saying thank you, Principal Stallings, for being fearless, for being steadfast, for being strong, and for leading with empathy and grace. We will not be going to executive session at this time. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the January 23rd, 2023 meeting, both regular and executive session?
So moved. Second.
Voting is open. Dr. Levy, could I have your vote?
Oh, she was gonna text me. Sorry. Yes.
The motion carries, all yeses, an abstention from Mrs. Stupler. Closing the voting.
The fire and safety drill checklist is attached to the meeting. Bus evacuation drills are shown on the attachment, as well as the HIB report for February and the suspension list for February. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Oprah requests, and they have all been closed out. Board Secretary report.
Thank you. I have several items under my section this time. The first item is our Food Service Director, Tina Artusa from NutriServe Food Management. NutriServe Food Management, Inc. received Director of the Year Award from NutriServe. And it was really exciting because on January 26th, they had a surprise presentation to her here. So she thought she was here for a finance meeting. She came over and they presented her with a plaque and an award. We love having Tina in this district. She's been here since September 2019, and we're very proud of everything she does for us, and we were so happy to be part of her award ceremony. The next item, rolling rescue shields under Finance 21.12, shared service agreement with the Voorhees Township Police. We are joining with them in a 50% purchase. It'll cost us $33,375, and it's a safety item, and they're called rolling rescue shields. But again, it's a joint effort. The next item is diversity audit rejection of all proposals. We put out an RFP, competitive contract RFP for diversity audit. We received 2 responses, but both of them did not really match what we had thought our specs were asking for, the scope of work. So at this point, we need to reject the proposals. And there is an item under Title 18A, 18A 22D that permits us to reject it. There's only certain reasons that you can reject any kind of bid or RFP. And the item that we're rejecting it for is the Board of Ed wants to substantially revise the specifications. And basically, I guess what it told us is that I guess our specifications were not clear to others because it did not reflect what we were looking for. So we do need to reject those proposals. We will revisit it once we have our diversity committee. District requirement for parent faculty association activities. I put together a memo with the help of other people on the various activities that our PFA does. We love our PFAs. They do so much for our students, but many times they would have questions that I felt that when they asked me, I was delaying what they really wanted to accomplish. So we wanted to put a document together that was helpful and informative, and it's now on each school's website, but it helps them, like if they're going to sponsor an assembly, it tells them, what they need to get from a certificate of insurance standpoint. If they're going to donate something to the school, it has a link that they can read the school policy, because if something is worth over $5,000, it needs board approval. So there's just various things that come up often, and this way it's a nice resource for them. We met with the PFA leadership on February 8th and went over it with them, and there's actually some items that we need to add based on our discussion. So I'm actually working with Alicia on those things, and we're going to add more. It'll be a working document, but I think it'll be a good resource for all of us. The next item is our budget timeline. We're really in the thick of budget season right now. On February 28th, the governor's budget address should occur. 2 days after that, state aid numbers are released, so we'll know what our state aid figures are. Up until now, we just used flat state aid until we get the actual numbers. On March 15th, our next board meeting will be the preliminary budget adoption. So at that meeting, the budget is presented and then submitted to the county for review. It's due at the county by March 20th. They have about a month to review it, and then they ask us questions, and after it passes their inspection, then we advertise it for public hearing. The public hearing is on May 3rd, and then we vote on the final budget for fiscal 23-24. The next item is personal relative financial disclosure statement. All board members and administrators need to fill this out on an annual basis, and it is due on by April 30th. So this is just a reminder for anybody that hasn't done it yet. Additional funding for preschool expansion aid. This is pretty exciting. We were glad to get notice that we received additional funding. It's $62,286, and we are allowed to use it for classroom supplies, curriculum items, playground, professional development, recruitment, and so forth. And the last item I have is basketball stations at Osage. Dr. Hackett has been hosting many forums, and one of her forums was with fifth grade students. And at one of the forums, a student had asked if they could possibly have any basketball stations at Osage. So Dr. Hackett brought that back to us, and Mr. Mathis looked into it, and we will be installing 3 basketball stations over at Osage. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks for everything to come in, and so they will be installed over spring break. So that's also an exciting thing. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah. Superintendent report.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. After 45 years in education and 10 years of dedicated service to Signal Hill Elementary School, Principal Sharon Stallings has announced her retirement effective April the 1st. We congratulate Ms. Stallings and wish her much success in the next chapter of her life. And I knew Ms. Stallings would be here this evening, so I'd like to dedicate this poem to her. It's called Like an Eagle Soar. And I guess I used Eagles because that seems to be the team in this area. You're an eagle, again you fly. It's time we sadly say goodbye. Yet really you deserve our cheers as our principal all these years. Like the eagle, you inspire. You give courage to go higher. You've given your all, your very best. Now it's time for some well-earned rest. When your principal no more, spread your wings. Feel free to soar. Even onwards, it's your best part. It's why we'll keep you in our hearts. Congratulations. Thank you for all that you have done over your journey of 45 years in education. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Stallings. And I know I don't think I'll do 45 years and 7 months, but I hope that whatever time I do, that when it's all said and done, that I can stand firm and say I did my very best. So thank you for that. So we have conducted interviews for a leave replacement administrator, and we were looking for someone who was retired and had some experience closing schools. This person would serve from April 1st to June 30th. We will be recommending a candidate to the Board of Education at next month's board meeting. So we have found a retired educator to be an interim principal for the remainder of the school year. We have started the process of hiring a permanent principal, and Ms. Stalling is a part of, will be a part of that committee. So we had a survey was given to parents and staff members to help us develop a profile of an ideal candidate. The profile has been created, and we are now vetting resumes and will schedule round 1 interviews shortly. We actually have 9 candidates who will undergo a round 1, which is a screening interview. Then we will narrow the pool down and take those candidates through a more intense interview. So we have 9 candidates who will go through a screening interview. Okay. As far as the assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, that position will also be vacant on July 1st. And I think I've mentioned that several times, and I have to keep saying it, even though I did try to talk her out of it. We completed round 1 interviews for that position, and the committee has selected 2 candidates to proceed to the second round interview, and that interview will be upcoming within the next 2 weeks of round 2. We interviewed 4 people for round 1 and narrowed the pool down to 2 for round 2. So today was Bus Driver Appreciation Day, Bus Driver and Aide Appreciation Day, and it was just a wonderful day in our district. We were out in front of the schools this morning giving out cookies to our bus drivers and our aides. Students were out there with signs, just saying thank you. I saw some bus drivers had gifts from parents. It was just a really special day to say thank you for those who care for our children by driving them to and from school every day. So we want to congratulate all of our bus drivers and aides and say that we are grateful and we certainly appreciate all that they do. We also had School Counselor Appreciation Week, the week of February 6th, and a Google Doc was created for each school, and parents and students and staff had the opportunity to write into the Google Doc messages of thanks for our school counselors. So we value and appreciate all of our counselors, and we are grateful for their efforts to maximize the learning experience for our students. We have such a wonderful staff here in Voorhees. I know we say it all the time, but they truly are exceptional. Always participating in events and activities that will help those who need assistance. So on February 7th, we had a dress down day for leukemia, for the Leukemia Society. And it was some former students who spearheaded this dress down day. And as a staff, we raised $466. And there's a corporation that has agreed to match our donation. So we were able to donate almost $1,000 to the society. So thank you to our wonderful staff. We also had a Voorhees Police Unity Ride recognition on February 17th. We wore blue to honor our police officers, and we raised a total of $380 to be donated to the Voorhees Police Department. So our staff is wonderful, and I thank them always for doing things to help others. Today, there was a staff versus student volleyball game at Voorhees Middle School. I was able to be there for a little bit of the game. And I was part of the halftime entertainment. And the reason I say that is because I had to have a foul shooting contest with the principal of the middle school. Does anyone know the principal of the middle school? She's sitting all the way in the back. And she is, you can look at her and tell that she's an athlete. I was told she played lacrosse, but then I later found out that she's actually coached basketball and played basketball. So here I am on the other end of the court with the foul shooting contest. So I am not going to talk about who won. I don't think that's important. I think the important thing is that the school raised money and the fund is used to help students and families in need at the middle school. So it was a fundraising activity. So thank you. And next time I'll ask some more questions about the talent of the people that I'm in competition with. So it was really a great, the female teachers played the girls and the male teachers played the boys. It was just really, really nice. So it was a wonderful event. We have a parent virtual workshop on February the 27th, giving parents tools to encourage and motivate children to read in and out of school. And that will be facilitated by none other than Sharon Stallings, Jim Bono, who's the reading specialist, and Laura Hertz, the library media specialist. Again, we offer these virtual workshops for our parents, and the links can be found online. And then we have also another workshop on March 23rd titled Special Education Inclusion. And that will be facilitated by Dr. Alegria, our Director of Special Services, and Ms. Donna Ross, our Learning Disabilities Teacher Consultant. So parents, please visit our website and please join. We have about 4 workshops remaining for the school year, and they have been so wonderful. I've attended almost all of them, and they've been amazing. So at this time, we're going to invite Susan Donnelly, and she's going to give a report on the Student Safety Data System, SSDS. And Ms. Donnelly is our Supervisor of Special Projects.
Thank you. I get a mic, I get a screen. I'm like, I'm only going to be up here for 2 minutes. So while we're loading the presentation, the SSDS is the school, the Student Safety Data System. And this gets reported to the board twice a year. The first reporting period, which I'm speaking of tonight, is from September 1st through December 31st of 2022. So we report on incidents that occur throughout the district that get put into the Department of Ed homeroom through the Student Safety Data System. And this includes, used to be EVVRS, electronic violence, vandalism, and all HIB reports get put in as well. And in addition to that, trainings and programs that the district participates are also part of it. I'm good, thank you. So District-wide, we had a total of 6 incidents that were reported through the SSDS system. 1 incident that occurred at E.T. Hamilton School, and 5 incidents that occurred at Voorhees Middle School. The 1 incident at E.T. Hamilton was an incident of violence, and the 5 from VMS were confirmed HIB, so HIB, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Incidents that are other incidents leading to removal do not get documented into it. We report them as incidents, but they don't count toward the totals. Same with HIB alleged, meaning that we did an investigation and did not find it to be substantiated harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Next one. Nope. So the next part of the report really is just the trainings and programs that we participate in. So district-wide, we had 5 trainings, meaning all staff members district-wide participated in 5 trainings that dealt with incidents of HIB trainings, programs, character education, things that promote overall school climate, positive school climate. So we had 1 new program, we had 5 trainings, E.T. Hamilton had 5, Crescent participated in 4, Osage in 3, Signal Hill in 7, and VMS in 4, which gave us a total of 28. And then the program total were 17 district-wide. That's it. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
And I will conclude my report with Dr. Young, and she will have a presentation on our Start Strong and iReady results.
I always feel like I need a stool. Okay, so welcome everyone. I would like to present to the community and to the board information about our fall assessments as well as our mid-year Start Strong or iReady assessment. So in September and October, our students participated in 2 assessments. So iReady diagnostic was given to students in grades 1 through 8 in reading and math. And then in September through October, students in grades 4 to 8 participated in the Start Strong assessment in literacy and math. And then students who were in grade 6 took a science assessment. So if you go back 1 second, the reason that we gave students 2 assessments, because we really don't like to over assess our students. However, the Start Strong assessment was a mandate by the Department of Ed. And that assessment really came out of COVID. And we were anticipating that we wouldn't be giving it, but they decided that districts would be mandated to give that assessment, even though we are back to normal full day instruction. The purpose of the Start Strong assessment is to assess students' prerequisites for the current grade level. So students in grade 4 that took the assessment in literacy and math, they were looking at 3rd grade skills. And that is the same for 5th through 8th as well. And then the 6th grade science assessment was really looking at students' proficiency on 5th grade skills. So that assessment is about 10 questions for each of the subject areas, and it took about 45 to 60 minutes. So it's a very short exam. And it does offer immediate feedback to the teachers. They can look at their students' scores and use the data to plan instruction accordingly. The difference with the iReady exam is that the iReady is much more comprehensive, and it looks at students' their grade level attainment, but it also looks at their growth. So it lets us know where the student is on their grade level standards, but then it also looks at their previous skills and how much they've grown. So once students start to take the test, they answer a question and the test begins to individualize for them. So students who are saying grade 2, they start answering all the grade 2 questions correctly, then it'll give them grade 3, and et cetera, et cetera. Students who are in grade 2 that aren't answering the grade 2 questions successfully, it will then give them first grade and kindergarten, et cetera. So it really does adjust to each individual student. So that gives us a lot more specific information than the Start Strong assessment. So that's why we felt it was really important for us to give both of those assessments. So you can go to the next slide. So the state says that we really should not be comparing our Start Strong results, but it's really hard not to, right? So we want to know how did the students who took the exam last year compare to our students that took the exam this year? Now, of course, those are different students. So we have to keep that in mind when we look at the results. But you can see across the board literacy, the results are basically the same. There's always going to be variability, but there's not really significant variability in those results. However, math, we definitely see an improvement. So we're really happy about that because math was an area where we saw students weren't performing as well. And this year we see that they performed better. And science was really stable as well, basically the same. So you can go to the next slide. Then we start to look at the Start Strong data by grade level. And you can see that our 4th and 5th graders performed better generally than they had in the previous years. And 6th, 7th, and 8th stayed relatively the same. You can go to the next one. And then we look at math, and you can see that in 4th and 5th, again, students achieved at a higher rate. 6th grade was pretty stable, and then we saw an improvement in grade 7. And 8th grade stayed about the same. And then science, as I had already reported, they only take it in 1 grade level, so they stayed the same. Okay, so how did our subgroups do? Well, our subgroups in literacy basically reflected the same results as we saw with the total population. So they basically stayed the same in the area of literacy. But when we go to the next slide and we look at our students with IEPs, the students that probably were most impacted by COVID, we see that they did make gains and they performed better. And the same for ESL. So I was really excited to see that we see gains in those 2 areas. When we look at our math subgroups, you can see that they performed better. So overall, most subgroups, we see an increase in performance, just like we saw with our total population. And the same goes for our students with IEPs and our ESL population and our economically disadvantaged. So overall, our math results were much stronger than they had been the year before, which is great news. Okay. So then we want to look and see, now that we are into school and students had completed a half a year of instruction, how are they doing when we look at our mid-year results? So when we looked at our mid-year results from last year and we compare it to this year, you can see that in literacy, our students are making progress. So last year we were at 41% of our students at this time were on or above grade level, and now we're at 44%. And when you go to the bottom, which is what I tend to be very concerned about, is our students who are really behind, you can see that there's less students that are 3 or more grade levels behind, which again is good news for literacy. And when we look at math, the same thing. So we're seeing that there's more kids at this point that are on or above grade level compared to the previous year. And if you look at the bottom levels, the 2 grades below or more, you can see that those numbers have reduced significantly in the area of math. Okay, so what are we doing? Because we know that we're not happy unless everybody is on grade level. And we know what a challenge that is, but it's definitely something that we strive for. So we have comprehensive basic skills programs in all of our buildings. We have extended day programs that, thank you to the grants that we receive, we're able to provide students with instruction an hour before school starts. And we do have some after-school programs that are in place as well for students who can't come before school. We have individual tutoring that's happening for students who were behind due to COVID. And because of the grant, we were able to fund individual tutoring. We have iReady instruction taking place. We're really monitoring the data on that and encouraging kids to keep working on their iReady, because that is the place where they're going to get that instruction that meets their individual needs as learners in both literacy and math. So all students are working on their iReady instruction. We've invested a lot of time in teacher professional development, focused on writing. We just, on the day that the students were home with you, our teachers were here learning about the writing process and planning instruction in writing. It was a really good day for them. And then at the middle school, we've been working on differentiated instruction, small group instruction, and during the day off, the teachers working very hard to plan differentiated small group instruction to meet the individual needs of their students. We have coaches who have been hired to come in and go into the classroom to work with the teachers on differentiated small group instruction. And they will be working with the teachers on writing directly in the classroom. We've hired teacher leaders. So some of our amazing teachers are putting in extra work after school hours during their prep time to provide training to teachers and to help support curriculum initiatives. We have monthly professional learning community meetings. So our teachers are staying after school once a month and meeting together in teams to talk about and learn about different strategies and to collaborate together on different initiatives. And then we're really working hard on our attendance intervention strategies. So COVID, we know had an impact not just on students learning, but also for some of our students, it's been hard to get them to come back to school on a regular basis. So we're working really hard on that as well. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes. Sure.
Do you have any data that compare to a non-COVID year?
That was my question.
Yeah, yes. And so we have gone back and looked at 18-19. And we do, we look at that data. Part of the issue with that now is that during the 18-19 school year, middle school wasn't using iReady. So now we factor in that group of students. And so it kind of skews the data. But I do go back and I look to see. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you see the difference of this year compared to that 18-19?
Yeah, I see that math was impacted the most when we go back and look at it, but we're seeing those gains. And I can report back on how did the math compare to 18-19 year. The problem, the part of the problem with math is that we were only doing math in grade 4 at the time. So we didn't have a whole district-wide initiative that included all the grade levels in math during the 18-19 year, so that gets skewed as well. But I can go back and look at the 4th grade information. Start Strong was not in place during NJSLA. Yes, we look at the NJSLA, which I reported on in August, right? So we'll take it again this spring, and I'm anxious to see the growth that we've made there, because this is like the really, to me, like the first really normal year that we've been back. So I'm hoping that we see a lot of gains on the New Jersey student learning assessment when we take it in the spring. And I might not be here to report on that, but somebody will. Yeah. We know that our scores are lower, so they are lower. And definitely math was the most impacted. So I'm really am happy to see that we're making gains in that area. The other thing, that indicator that we look at that it's really super important, is we look at students' growth on the assessment, the iReady assessment. And so we know that for some of these kids that were behind, the most important thing that we want to see is that they've grown a whole year. And so that might not be grade level attainment, but if they've gotten that whole year of growth, then we're doing a good job. So that's something that we work with our teachers and our principals to share that data on individual students. Okay, you're welcome. Hi, yes.
As far as the the intervention strategies,
Uh-huh.
what does the individual tutoring look like? I'm just curious. What does that look like? Like what type of
Yeah,
everyday thing, or is that once in a
no,
while? Like, what does it
yes,
look
it's
like?
not every day. So it depends on the student and the circumstance. But there are students that will receive in-home tutoring with our professionals. It depends on the circumstance. There's some students with IEPs that are eligible for some compensatory instruction that can get those services after school.
So that's not for every student? Is that
No.
what you're saying?
No, it's not for every student. No.
Oh, okay.
But every student has the ability to come to our before school programs or after school programs.
Okay.
Okay.
But if they don't have transportation, or they depend on the bus or something like that,
Mhm.
how do we bridge that gap? I'm just
Yes.
curious.
Yeah, so we have basic skills programs during the school day as well, where those students would be pulled out of class to get instruction.
I think he made a great point. Like if these kids need anything extra they
Then-
can get, they're not able to get here or stay after school.
Then they just have to let us know, and we'll make accommodations based on their needs.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
great to know.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Mhm. Yep. Any other questions?
I mean, are parents aware that you will make accommodations to help these kids? Because I'm sure a lot of parents may not be aware that you can offer transportation to these kids.
I'm not saying we can offer transportation, but we may be able to offer some virtual tutoring. There's other ways that we can help
Okay.
students. And we have a process called RTI.
Okay.
And so the teachers meet, they brainstorm ways to help kids that are struggling.
Okay.
So yes, there's a mechanism to get supports. Uh-huh. Any other questions? Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We had two committees meet. Can I have Mrs. Verdi provide the policy committee report?
Yep. So the policy committee met earlier this evening. We reviewed several policies. So two policies for first read, P0164 on conduct of a board meeting. We also looked at P8600 student transportation. Our policies and regulations for second read, we looked at P&R 9130. This is public complaints and grievances. We did decide that there were going to be some potential changes to this policy and regulation. So that's being taken off of the agenda for full board consideration at this time. We'll reevaluate it at our next meeting. Other policies for second read were P2530 resource materials, P0161 call adjournment and cancellation, P0162 notice of board meetings, PNR 2423 bilingual and ESL education, PNR 2425 emergency virtual or remote instruction program, PNR 5200 attendance, PNR 8140 student enrollments, PNR 8330 student records. We also had a conversation about updates and changes to policies and procedures around Board of Education conflict of interest disclosure. Those conversations are still ongoing, and we will report back as changes and decisions are made.
Thank you so much. Personnel Committee, Mrs. Cosenza, could you provide a brief report?
Yes, at this evening's Personnel Committee meeting, we discussed, we discussed new job listings. As far as the I can't get my words out. I'm so sorry. Let me start over. At tonight's Personnel Committee meeting, we discussed some new job descriptions, qualifications, job goals, performance responsibilities in terms of employment for the following jobs: preschool intervention and referral specialist, supervisor of special education, director of early childhood literacy, 2 professional development coaches, as well as an HVAC master mechanic. We also discussed revisions to the building foreman job description and a revision to the supervisor of special projects description.
Thank you so much. Audience participation. Anyone wishing to address the board, please approach the right side table and write your name and address on the login sheet. If you are attending via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature to be acknowledged. While the board is limited in its ability to respond to the public on matters involving personnel, litigation, negotiations, and attorney-client privilege, the board will now hear comments from the public relating to items on the agenda for this board meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board will not take action this evening. You will be notified at some later time by letter, electronic mail, telephone, or in the context of a later board meeting of any action the board does take. Kaplan, I hope you noticed our beautiful
Well,
speakers.
that is exactly why I'm here. A huge thank you to Dr. Hackett and everybody else who is responsible for this. It makes it so much easier. And in fact, I met several people. I was not able to be here last month, but I met some people. One board member said, "You weren't there. You didn't see the microphones." I have one request, as Dr. Hackett did and Dr. Young did. When it's your turn to speak, move it towards you so that we can hear it, because if you don't, it's up here and nobody can hear you. So thank you very, very much, Dr. Hackett and the board and everybody else who is responsible for this. I really appreciate having the ability to hear you. Thank you.
Let me make sure mine is loud enough.
So I'm Beth Zanatich, and I'm number 15.2 on your agenda. I just found that out at 6:30 this evening because a coworker called me in a panic and said, "Do you know you're on the agenda?" And they're planning to abolish your position. So I'm going to talk to you guys. I've noticed I have friends out there. They know who I am. I do recognize that the position, they would like it to be a full-time position. What I'd like to tell you all is that 9 years ago, I was a community member. My kids were in school at Crescent, and I knew that a job was coming available as a speech language pathologist. I wasn't planning on applying. My husband and I were running a very small business, and I was raising 2 boys at home. And I just felt like I needed to apply, that I love the school district. I am a Voorhees graduate. My kids went through the Voorhees School District, and I thought to myself, if I'm going to go back to work and work anywhere, I want to work here. And so I applied, and I was hired at 60%. And for the last 9 years, that is how I've worked. I started 3 days a week at Signal Hill, and as caseloads changed and needs changed at different schools, I went everywhere. I worked at Osage, I worked at Hamilton, I did evaluations. For a couple years, I was the evaluator for the child study team because many of our speech therapists were overwhelmed and didn't have time to do, didn't have an evaluation slot. So I pride myself on always being flexible. And this year, I got an email in May that said, you're going to VMS. And after my initial sadness, because I have wonderful friends at Signal Hill and I loved it there, and children that I connected with, and that was my happy place in every day. I embraced going to VMS. I was embraced there. I love the job. I think my students knock on my door asking to come to speech. I have, embraced the difference of working in the middle school versus the elementary school. I've found the positives there, other than the fact that the kids are now taller than me. It's wonderful. I did know that some changes were happening, but I had no idea that my position was being abolished. And when you see that on the agenda and you hear your coworkers, calling you in a panic, I panicked. So I got in the car, and fortunately I live around the corner and I came here to fight for my job. My husband and I, like I said, we have a small business. On those 2 days that I don't work, I'm running his business with him. I'm not sitting home, having lunch dates, playing. I am working. I work really hard for my part-time job, and I feel like I work really hard for our small business. And when I was approached and I said, I knew that it was a possibility, I spoke up and said, I really don't know that this can be possible. And I was, concerned. I asked, is my job, at risk? I was not given a definitive answer. And then I was not told that it was being put on the agenda today. So if you can imagine, I'm heartsick. I didn't, prepare anything to say to you other than I'm a hard worker. You can look back on my evaluations. I have nothing but stellar evaluations. You can ask any of my coworkers, my administrators. I don't think there would be an unkind or negative thing to be said about me. And it would be sad for my job to be eliminated over numbers. I know that there are other options. I won't go into the details of staffing and stuff, but I truly believe that there are some other answers that could happen, that maybe some other things so that my job could be retained. And I'm just here, wanting you to know that there is a face and a person and an evaluation and relationships that, are more than just line 15.2. That I'm valued here. I see my worth here. And I hope that when you make this decision that you can, think outside the box. That sign hangs in my room. I work with special ed students. I live outside the box. That's where me and my students work best. That's where we succeed. And I would hope that in considering other options, that you could also think outside the box for me. Thank you.
Board comments.
I'd like to say something.
Yes.
I'd like to say thank you so much, Ms. Zanetich, for your lovely expression from your heart. I think that, we need to, maybe have some conversation or see something. You say you just found out. That's the horrible way to find out. And I could tell that, just the words from your heart it was no speech prepared, like you said. Everything came from the heart. So I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that you're going through that at this moment in time. So I'm hoping that something can possibly happen. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that something can possibly happen. But I do thank you for your service and service that you give to the students that you've, come in contact with and help them with their different concerns that they may have. So I appreciate that.
First, I wanted to congratulate Mrs. Stallings on her retirement. She had the benefit of having 2.5 of my kids, I would say. Well, 1.5, I should say, I apologize. We enjoyed our time at Signal Hill, so you definitely will be missed. I do want to say, Ms. Sanitesh, I have seen you in action, and I think you're an amazing therapist. And Voorhees has been very lucky to have you. I remember seeing you in the library when we used to be allowed to come in and volunteer, and you were always so engaging with your students. You never really worked with my kids, but I have seen, and I think you're amazing. So I'm really sorry to hear what you're going through. I'm a firm advocate that we should have full-time speech therapists in our school and part of our full-time community. And I've been very vocal about that and really not having these people that come in periodically. I think it really makes a difference, as you could see. The cohesiveness for our students, which should be our top priority, not necessarily numbers. And on that note, I really think we should propose some sort of special education audit committee to really come in and look at our programs and really have like professionals come in and evaluate our programs, how we could do better, what we're not doing well enough, what we're doing great, and really take a closer look because it is a huge part of our budget. We have a growing population of students, and maybe situations like this could be avoided. So that would be something I think would benefit. I know we're looking at a diversity audit, but maybe we can put together some sort of special education audit as well. I think that could be really beneficial to our community.
Yep.
My mic is not on. I'm so sorry. Yes, thank you so much for coming. I just, I can't speak on behalf of the superintendent, assistant superintendent, or principals or any other administration, but for our own clarification for the board, are we able to vote on without that 15.2?
You can vote no on that particular agenda item. But no, we can't. Yeah, you can vote no on that item if you would like.
Okay, I just want to get some more clarification before I vote on that. Thank you.
Mrs. Watson, may I
Yeah.
ask a point of clarification?
Yes.
On the agenda, the next number down, 15.3, is that not for a full-time position?
That is, it's so the position that's being eliminated, 15.2, is the part-time speech therapist position, and the 15.3 is a full-time speech therapist position.
That is being accepted.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other?
I have an unrelated comment or question. So I was looking over the district requirements for PFA activities, and I think this is a really helpful document. And, I'm sure it'll be really helpful for our PFAs. One thing I wanted to bring up, and I understand that PFAs are separate legal entities, and so we can't necessarily dictate how they run their fundraisers. But I have seen in the past and heard concerns from parents about food allergies, and that a lot of these fundraisers are food-based and often don't include the ingredients on foods that are being sold. And so I would hope that we could consider maybe just a guidance with some suggestions, maybe that they don't necessarily have, I understand we can't dictate exactly what they do, but I think we should be mindful of children and families with severe food allergies, and listing ingredients on food-based fundraisers feels like the very least that we can do for these families.
Any other comments?
Excuse me, my voice is a little hoarse. Ms. Zanatech, thank you for coming. I really appreciate what you said. Your heartfelt message resonates. I'm sorry you found out the way you found out. I don't know if it's appropriate to ask, but I would love some clarification from Dr. Hackett around the reason for abolishing the part-time position and the reasoning behind the full-time position. I don't know if that's appropriate right now, but that would be my question.
So due to our increasing enrollment of students who require speech services, the 0.6 position does not allow us to have enough staff to service those students. And you'll see later on the agenda, there is a need to hire speech therapists from outside the district to support the additional students. And so that's why we need the position to become a full-time position. And that is all I'm able to say at this point.
I have a question. So are you eliminating hiring outside speech therapists from the school district going forward if you make Ms. Zanatech's position full-time?
We believe that moving this to full-time we don't know if it will actually reduce the need to ever use a contractor, but it definitely will limit the need to do so. I'm sorry, we don't know if it'll eliminate the need to have a contractor, but it should reduce the need. Sorry.
Well, couldn't you just keep, I mean, I don't know if this is on the line, but couldn't you just
I don't
have?
think this is, it's probably not appropriate public session conversation.
Any other comments? Seeing none? Moving to transportation. Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under transportation?
So moved.
Can I ask a question? What is, there was the Passarello's VMS, what is that?
That is a restaurant, and I believe the special ed students take a trip there.
Okay. I saw something about administration, so thank you for clarifying that.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under transportation?
At a motion, you need a second.
Oh, we had one. We need a second.
Second.
Voting is open. Dr. Levy,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously. Closing voting.
So we'll have to amend section 14. Can I get a motion to approve all of the policies and regulations listed under 14.2? Did you already take them out? No.
Taking out 9130.
Yes, taking out item A, 2A, Roman numeral 2A, P and R 9130, public complaints and grievances. So everything else will stay intact. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open. Motion unanimously passes. Closing the voting.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under personnel?
So moved.
You'll have to say it out loud.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll need a second.
Second? Second.
Online voting is open.
Helen,
Yes.
I want to vote yes for all items except for 15.2 until we can discuss it further.
The 15.2 is no.
No.
Ellen, can I have the same for me, please?
Ellen,
For Jason.
Okay. Well, well,
Yeah. Same here.
I'm just going to wait a second because they're having a conversation.
We're going to make a motion to defer item 15.2 until after executive session. So, sorry, not making your life more
That's okay.
complicated. So we are going to can I get a motion to approve all of the items under 15, except for item 15.2, which will be deferred until post executive session?
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry. Okay. Who did the second?
Kelly.
I think they're voting on all items under personnel 15, with the exception of 15.2. Motion unanimously passes. I have a question for Ms. Danella. Do they have to vote to remove 15 or that's 15.2?
So listen, I mean, procedurally, we were in the middle of a vote. We could have let the vote fail, or reconsidered it immediately after. But I think everybody at the table and Dr. Levy at home was clear on the clarification of the motion. So I'm inclined to just place substance over form here because I think all the board members realized that there was an amendment to the motion. There was some question about it mid-voting. So that what everybody just voted on was everything under 15 except for 15.2. So if that was everyone's understanding, then I think that would be how the vote would stand. And then after executive session, you would just do a new motion if the board is so inclined to approve 15.2. So that item would stand alone.
Do we have to remove 15.2 and 3?
No, you don't. I mean, you can, that's up to the board, but I don't think you have to.
Yeah,
You have-
let's do that.
Okay.
For so it's going to be items under 15, except for 15.2 and 15.3, because they go together. And yes, and
So
we'll defer both of those votes until after executive session.
I did not close the voting. Can people go in there? I think they're permitted to go in and change their vote if they wanted to, right?
So just to be clear for everyone, the vote that's on the floor is everything under 15 except for 15.2 and 15.3.
Yeah.
That's the final motion, second, and the original motion was Dr. Levy, and the second was Ms. Cosenza, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so everyone's good with that being the motion on the floor? Okay,
Yes.
fantastic.
Okay, so I will keep it as is. The motion unanimously passes.
Yep.
Oh.
There are no items under deferred action. New business. Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under new business?
So moved.
Second.
That was, yep, better.
Sometimes it's hard to tell. Online voting is open.
Yes.
Motion unanimously passes.
Our next regular meeting or regularly scheduled meeting will be March 15th, 2023 at 7 PM in the administration building. Audience participation, anyone wishing to address the board, please approach the right side table and write your name and address on the login sheet. If you are attending via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature to be acknowledged. While the board is limited in its ability to respond to the public on matters involving personnel, litigation, negotiations, and attorney-client privilege, the board will now hear comments from the public. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board will not take action this evening. You will be notified at some later time by letter, electronic mail, telephone, or in the context of a later board meeting of any action the board does take.
Sure. Is it on?
Is it green?
It's green.
Good.
Good evening. I'm Carrie Cooper. I teach at Signal Hill School. I live at 12 Just Chase Court in Voorhees. I've been in this district for 29 wonderful years. And all of those years, pretty much under Principal Sharon Stallings. She was our vice principal before becoming our principal. She spent a few years at Osage and round and about Voorhees. And since no one else on staff wanted to come up and say something, considering I'm the OG over there, I speak on behalf of the staff and the students of Signal Hill. I don't have anything prepared other than I'm so happy for you. We are so pleased and excited for your next chapter. We are so fortunate to have been under your leadership, and our students are better for it. We wish you all the best in your retirement and hope to see you somewhere outside of our district, but Voorhees has been blessed by your principalship and your leadership. So thank you, Sharon, and we wish you the best. Say goodbye to the tension and hello to your pension.
I work in education. I taught for many years. I like that. Not yet, but I will.
Hi. Oh, gonna lean into this thing. Thank you guys all. But it's just a quick concern I had. I had a great conversation with Diane Young earlier about this today. My son learned earlier this week, he had the puberty conversation. Again, I had a conversation about technical terms. They were referring to things as private parts in the thing. I just think tabooing the body unfortunately has other consequences. So earlier in this year, I gave her the story. My son got hit in the penis with a ball, 9:30 in the morning, waited all the way till 3 o'clock in the afternoon to burst into tears and tell me what happened because he was told you don't talk about those things at school. That's a parenting fail on my part because I told him, you know, only the doctor, only with mom. And I think if we continue to taboo body parts, unfortunately, situations like this do occur. So just want to reiterate, especially, you know, with little kids, when we're referring to things, we would not refer to this as a grabber, it's an arm. Same thing with anatomy. It just is what it is, no matter how young you are. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Board comments? Moving to finance, can I get a motion to approve all of the items under finance?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open. The motion passes with all yeses and one abstention from Mrs. Stupler. Motion carries.
So we are now going to go into executive session. I will read the public contact. Whereas the Open Publics Meeting Act authorizes the Board of Education to meet in executive session under certain circumstances, whereas the Open Publics Meeting Act requires the board to adopt a resolution at a public meeting to go into private session. Now therefore be it resolved by the Voorhees Township Board of Education that it is necessary to meet in executive session to discuss certain items involving matters involving the purchase of real property and or the investment of public funds, And 2, matters involving personnel issues, including but not limited to the employment, appointment, termination of employment, terms and conditions of employment, evaluation of performance, promotion, or discipline of any public officer or employee. Be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board, which need not remain confidential, will be made public as soon as feasible. The minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Further resolved that the board will or will not return to to open session to conduct business at the conclusion of the executive session. And we will vote on the outstanding deferred items 15.2 and 15.3. We expect to be in executive session around 40 minutes. I apologize. That's all I got for you. Can I get a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Who did the second down there?
Julie, Kelly.
Kelly, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
Can I get a motion to return from executive session?
Hello. You hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, second.
Kelly and Julie.
Voting is open.
Okay, I'm gonna say yes.
Mr. Bryce?
Jason?
Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's okay.
My battery was slow.
Okay, motion unanimously passes.
Okay, first on our agenda is we are revisiting personnel items 15.2 and 15.3 for a vote. Can I get a motion to approve items 15.2 and 15.3?
So moved.
Is that Mrs. Cosenza?
Yes.
Okay.
Second. I said so.
Oh,
No, I
oh,
said second.
okay.
Yeah, that's
Sorry, I
fine.
thought you were
Sorry,
asking.
yeah, so,
Sorry.
yeah, it's fine.
Should I call the roll?
Oh, right, because we can't do it on
Yeah, I
here.
have to call the
Yes.
roll because we can't add a motion to the electronic agenda.
Yep.
So I will call the roll. Mr. Bryce?
Yes.
Mrs. Cosenza?
Yes.
Ms. Ketover?
Yes.
Dr. Levy?
Yes.
Mrs. Rudder? Mrs. Stupler? Ms. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Watson?
Yes.
Motion carries. 7 yes, 1 abstention. 1 absent.
There was nothing else to discuss from executive session. Motion adjourned.
Can I have a second?
I can't. Can someone second the motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor, any abstentions? No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Sorry,
That's okay, no problem.
I was too excited.
All right, so wait, can I show you my, this is what I did the reverse French with the matte flag.
I love it.
I thought I was. I really